Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Carlton People. On today's episode, I have a very interesting fella for a few reasons. One, because he's a massive Carlton supporter like we all are, and two, because he's now joined the Blue Abroad family, and I'll let him chat a little bit about it. But Joseph Adamo, hello, my friend.
G'day, Terry. How are you, mate?
Mate, I'm good. Is it Adamo or Adamo?
It's Adamo, but I mean, I'll get both. It is what it is. It's not the easiest. Probably much like yourself, it's not the easiest surname to pronounce.
I'm very peculiar with trying to get it right. I probably should have asked you before we started. So Joseph Adamo.
No, that's all right.
Mate, well, talk to me a little bit. Give us a bit of an intro to yourself. Who are you? And tell me about your Carlton story.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a Carlton supporter my whole life. I think, like a lot of kids born in the '90s, I was brainwashed into it by my dad. I think the story goes that my first words were the Carlton theme song before anything else. So not much of a surprise there. But yeah, look, if it was, I was saying to my partner before, if it was up to me, I was born out in the west in Werribee. Recently moved to the north, but if it was up to me, I probably would have chosen the Doggies as the preferred team, being born out in the west. And like, when you think about it, I was brainwashed into barracking for the most successful club at the point where I was alive, and the club that I would have barracked for had won premiership, but I would have seen a premiership by now if I had have gone that way. So that's the story of a Carlton supporter, unfortunately. But mate, I love the club. Couldn't even fathom barracking for anyone else. Much like most supporters. So yeah, look, whole life I've been a member for many years now. Have before COVID barely missed a Victorian home game or a Victorian game for the last sort of 3-4 years. And yeah, just absolutely love it. Outside of that, just like every sort of common person, just got my own sort of full-time job working in sales for an FMCG supplier in the city. So nothing too interesting there, but mate, my passion's sport, AFL in particular, and the Blues on another level.
Yeah, I mean, we got in touch, what was it, 2-3 weeks ago now. You reached out and
I think it was about round 8.
Yeah, we had a good conversation, and you and I are very similar in that we career-minded, career-driven, 90s boys, just before social media kicks in and everything else starts kicking in terms of the internet age, and the new world starts happening, and then we start seeing blogs, podcasts, YouTube channels, and whatnot. And I sensed the similarities. So talk to me a little bit about like you said, your passion's Carlton, and you're in the corporate world, you're in that sort of world. So what are you seeing with the sport world and the sport industry? And I guess why I'm asking is, for those of you at home, obviously Joseph's joined the team as our chief editor, I guess. So what drew you to do something like that?
Yeah, I mean, look, in my job, I'm an analyst by trade, if you want to call it that. So I look at a lot of data day in, day out, and I just look for patterns and trends that I can sort of share with the business and give recommendations based on what I can find. So from that standpoint, I'm quite well versed in being able to do that. For years, if I had my time again at high school, knowing what I know now, I would have gone down a sports exercise route to get into sports analytics a little bit easier. But look, for years, my passion's been, or my goal has been, to try and get involved in sports and use my sort of analytical skills as much as possible within that space. I did some work for an NPL 2 Victorian club, Geelong Warriors, last year as their lead video and opposition analyst. So look, and that was sort of my first step into sport. But AFL, Carlton's my passion, and I was thinking about whether or not I do a postgrad in sports analytics to get into this space, or whether I try and do things that I'm doing with you, and after reaching out with you and being given the opportunity to do these reviews and do these previews and bring that sort of analytical mindset to some written content for Blue Abroad. It's an opportunity I couldn't pass up, mate. And look, it's not necessarily sports journalism or sports writing that that I thought I'd be absolutely interested in. But so far, it's been great. It's been good to learn a bit of the craft and sort of change things week to week. But digging into the data upon review and then even leading up to a game is something that obviously interests me and something that drives me to bring some hopefully good content to the channel for the viewers and for the subscribers.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm not sure if we're moving away from this mindset, but for a lot of people, and you made the comment just then, people might go down a career path and then they might want to change it up, and then there's this notion of, oh, I'm going to go do a course and I'm going to go do this 3-year degree or bachelor or diploma, and it's all about like going and doing a course at, I guess, the institutions. Whereas now I'm a byproduct of the institution. Law school, did the whole thing, and then I just saw the internet for what it was, and the internet is the distribution platform.
Absolutely.
That's what it is now. There's an argument to be. No, there isn't. It's not an argument. It's fact. You writing your reviews, that is journalism. You're researching, you're putting your craft together, you're coming up with data, you're coming up with opinion based on your research. Like, it is sports journalism, and it might not be one of the big platforms, the Herald Sun, News Corp, etc. But I just think this is where we're going. We're really moving into that world. And
Absolutely.
I just look at it like that. I've looked at it like that for years, and I think obviously I've seen things elsewhere outside of Australia which help spark that. But I just think this is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, for sure. Look, the podcast world's taken off, mate. So it makes sense that this sort of platform's getting more and more recognised and becoming a lot more popular among sports fans, for instance, in this case. But look, it's not elite journalism. It's amateur at its best. I'd probably for me personally, but just with my experience. But mate, it's an opportunity for me to sort of grow and. Look, until it sounds like that the Blue Abroad network and subscribers are getting a little bit out of it. It's just a different take on what yourself and Dan do. It's more written rather than verbal at this point. But as long as it's providing value at this point, I'll keep honing the craft and bringing some more Carlton content to the channel. It's great.
You're stuck with me now, mate. You're not going anywhere. So
that's good, mate. That's good.
Let's go back into your Carlton story. So, what's your first memory? Where does the memory kick in? How far back do you go?
First memory. It's a difficult one. I've thought about this a couple of times. I remember being at the '99 prelim and grand final, and their snippets. So I would have been 4 years old. The prelim I remember walking away from. I was with my dad, my grandfather, who was an Essendon supporter, which would have been phenomenal for my dad to absolutely get stuck into him. But I remember walking away from the ground that day. In the grand final, I remember sitting in the nosebleeds with my cousin, my dad, and my other cousin that day. But to be honest, I've got a recollection of. I think we're at the G. It was just me and my dad, and I remember him lifting me up when Ange Christou was about to kick the ball, and it was when I was first learning what the woof was, and I remember Dad was like, "All right, you ready?" And then as he kicked it, just yelling "woof," and it's a very, very brief snippet in my memory, but I reckon that it may even precede the '99 prelim. So it's a long time ago. I was, like I said, probably 4 years old at the time. But yeah, that'd be my first memory for sure.
Yeah. So which year are you born in?
94.
94.
So sorry, I would have been 5 years old then. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. So we go through what we go through. We get through the 90s. We don't really remember. We get through the early 2000s, and you and I and a lot of the 90s kids. And it's funny because a lot of the 90s kids and the 2000s kids are so similar, and we hear the stories about the mighty Carlton Football Club and the 8 premierships and all of that. So what was rebuild number 1 like for you? Like Murphy,
Gibbs
and Cruiser. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I was still pretty young when the salary cap breach and everything, and those fines were imposed. I do remember reading about it in the paper. I actually had I had that snippet from the Herald Sun up until probably 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know where I've misplaced that, but yeah, I was still pretty young then. I do remember the ramifications and Dennis Pagan coming in, and then obviously after that, and then during that period picking up, Murphy, Gibbs, Cruiser. For me, it was sort of as I was starting to really become an active fan of the club, because obviously when you versus 5 years old to 10, you've got more of an understanding of the game. You're more absorbed in it. And yeah, look, it was exciting. I mean, for a young kid, it was exciting to see these players coming in that had such big raps on them, and you're going, great, we've got number 1 draft picks. This is awesome. I can't be too far off that we're back to being naive, that we're back to where we were, which I'm sure was the case for a lot of kids growing up in that time. And then Juddy comes in '08 with Rats. Goes to another level. I'm probably 14, 15 at that point, 13 or 14. And it's like, all right, this is awesome. Like, we've got a Brownlow medalist, we've got a premiership player, like the club's back. And you sort of felt like, you know what, we're going to relive the glory days. This is awesome. And then, yeah, it sort of took a sharp turn, I guess. Fev leaving with those indiscretions was the start of it. You had 2012, which was a horrid year for injuries, and a year coming off a semi-final with Ratton as head coach. And every Carlton supporter knows that he was probably hard done by when we were chasing Malthouse and just in the wrong place at the wrong time, unfortunately. And, it's the big what if. What if the club stuck by him, saw the injuries for what they were, and went another year with Ratton and that list that we were building, because we had some tremendous players. But, yeah, that first rebuild was it definitely left you wanting more, for sure.
Yeah,
sure.
It just ended. That's it. It just kind of like, we were so confident, and like when you look at the practical side of it, 3 number 1 draft picks, talent for 10, 15 years with each one. Then we get the best player in the league, just to sort of top it up. And it was just this ultimate feeling of, there's no way this doesn't work. There's no way we probably will win the flag. We might not win the flag, but even if we don't win the flag, we're going to be up and about. We're going to be in finals year after year after year, sustained success. And then it just withered away, just like that.
Yeah, it was insane. It was literally overnight. I mean, the alarm bells were ringing, right, when the rumours of Malthouse coming in were they started to swirl. But I don't think anyone would have saw what would have happened from 2013 onwards. Like that, obviously 2013 we got lucky, the Essendon drug saga and making finals from 9th, and then that elimination final is still one of the absolute highlights of my Carlton life. Being there that day was just, it gives me goosebumps to even think about it. But aside from 2013, like I would go as far to say as that was a worse period than what the first rebuild gave us, because it was sort of forced on us, that first rebuild. We were our own worst enemy from 2013 onwards with the decisions that we made as a club. And it absolutely set us back, 10 years. And we're seeing that now. Like, it's taken so long to get back to being just competitive in 2020. Like, we're talking about 7 years ago that final was won. And finally, it's like, all right, there's some light at the end of the tunnel. So it's a long time coming.
I remember the criticism of Ratton at the time. I'd never forget it. Doesn't have a plan B, gets out coached, whatever. I kind of feel like, and I'll touch on rebuild number 2, which is the one we're in right now. But I just can't help but feel like we're going to have to go through that same point again with Teague, because he's obviously he's a first time head coach in the AFL, very similar to what Ratton was.
Yep.
I want to get your thoughts on that. Are we going to learn our lesson because there's going to be ups and downs with Teague. He's going through his own learning process. So are you okay with, being a little bit more patient with him, because he's going to have that learning experience?
Look, I think so. Like, he applied his craft at AFL level for 88 games, whatever it was. Played for the Blues as well, won a best and fairest. So he's got footy smarts. We know that as a player. If you look around the league at a lot of head coaches, the more successful ones historically have been players that have got those footy smarts. Not necessarily the flags or anything like that, but they've got that tactical awareness of the game as a player. Obviously, there's the outliers like a Luke Beveridge that, although he played, wasn't a superstar in his own right. But taking Luke Beveridge as an example, even Damien Hardwick, Damien Hardwick has been Richmond coach for years now, and it took him, I think it was 6 or 7 years to even look like they were going to start contending. They started contending. It was on the brink of collapse, and all of a sudden they win a flag. It makes you feel that Ratton decision came a year or two too early. Not that I want to reflect on that too much, but it was a year or two too early. Looking at the Damien Hardwick situation, looking at even the Nathan Buckley situation where he made a grand final the year after they did that review. What if we were just ahead of the curve at the time and went, you know what, give him a chance. Let it slide for another year or two. We've got a good list. Let's see how he goes. And if it failed, it failed. But just seeing the outcome of the Richmonds and Collingwoods in recent years, it has you begging and just wanting to know, what if. So look, with Teague, you're right, it's gonna be the same situation. He's a fresh coach. He's got a 50% win record. I know it's only been 22 games at this point, so it's just a full season under his belt at the moment. He's got a really good list, really balanced, good young kids coming through, and I think with the year that we've had this year, if we can continue over the next 5 or 6 rounds to stay competitive, you can bring in. I know you and Dan talk about Papley all the time, but a Papley, he's going to be at a premium next year. But throw the kitchen sink to get this guy. We should have done it last year. Ollie Wines, Brad Crouch. There's players out there that can genuinely step in next year and take us back to that level that we were at in 2012 when it was like, we're going to make this jump. We just need to be 1 or 2 years more patient. So absolutely patient. Boy, I think we've just taken the headset out here.
Very nice, very nice. The passion's coming through, man.
Absolutely. Just remain. We need to just remain patient. Need to remain patient. It's if we don't, it's just going to be another opportunity wasted. That's what I feel like.
Yeah. So looking at this rebuild, looking at not just the rebuild, but let's look at 2020. At the time of filming this, it's Friday morning, just ticked over in the afternoon. With what you're watching, what you're doing, obviously you've been doing articles for us and giving us that analytical insight. What are you seeing? What is happening right now with this group?
Yeah, look, it's good to see that we've got a game plan, because under Bolton, while we were super competitive and while Bolton gave us that grit, we didn't really have a sexy sort of game plan that we're seeing now. It's attacking, there's a bit of flair, it's exciting. Teague is daring his players to take the game on, but at the same time, it's heavily reliant on structure. Those 3 talls up the front, as soon as one goes, we saw it, against West Coast, against Hawthorn. We're too reliant on having those 3 talls, and I think those 3 talls really only work if it's 3 of Charlie, Gov, Harry, and Levi out there. We saw what impact Callum Moore had when he came in. It was next to nothing. It'll be interesting to see what TDK can do this week, being that pinch hit for Pitto. But I think we're so close, but that game plan needs tweaking based on the personnel that Teague has at his disposal. And right now, based on the Hawthorn and West Coast games, I don't think we're seeing that. Again, still very, very early in Teague's reign as head coach, and it might just take him time to adapt and come up with things on the fly. But I felt like when he was caretaker, we were seeing that. We saw it in the Brisbane game. We reset at halftime in that first game that he took over. We were 40 points down, reset, and came out in blistering fashion. Absolutely different side in that second half to what you saw in the first. So I don't know if it's just the pressure of being a head coach now, where he's sort of gone back into his shell and he wants to stick to his own game plan without taking too many risks. But I think that bit of dash and dare that we saw last year that might have crept out of some of these games, I think we need to start seeing that come back. And it's this close. It's so close. I don't know. What are your thoughts, mate? Because I know obviously you watch a hell of a lot of games as well. We haven't really had too much of an opportunity to discuss between ourselves. But what are your thoughts on sort of where they sit from that standpoint?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head with the game plan that Teague's trying to implement, and it needing to be tinkered given the personnel that's available. I think that's a spot on comment. I think Charlie Curnow in this system, the way we move the ball, is going to be very exciting. And I know there's a lot of talk out there about how he could be trade bait and people are sick of him and things like that. But I want to see him in this system. I think, given that we've had games where, the other week we had Honey, Cottrell, and Tom de Koning play in the same side. We wouldn't have won that game or even been competitive years gone by. And I think what I'm seeing is a system. There's actually a system where it's plug and play. And yes, there's debate about the three talls, but that's the way he wants to go. And the big criticism about Bolton was, what are we trying to do? Like, what is the game plan? Whereas now it's like, we have the game plan. It's a three-tall system. It's based on pressure, kicking. It's based on, we're up the ground more. We want to score off turnover. We want to move the ball quickly. We want to take those dangerous kicks. It's, I can reel off things that I'm seeing week to week. So that's what I'm seeing. And that's what excites me, because the system's in place. Now it's all about, A, getting healthy, getting these players back that are in our best 22, and then B, maybe adding players who can fit the system. And I know it's all about Papley, and I know it's all about Ollie Wines, and those are the talk. I don't think either of those will happen, because every year the big names that are mostly spoken about, they don't happen. I just want to see the role players who are sort of better than just a role player but can do a little bit more, come in and fit the system and play to what we're trying to do. That's what I want to see personally.
Yeah, look, and you're right. It may not be a Papley or Wines, because traditionally we're just not that big fish target in recent years. I don't know, maybe if we're more competitive, that changes. Who knows? We'll see in the off-season. But you see the impact of a Jack Martin and Jack Nunes this year. Like, they weren't household names. It's not something that we had to give up absolutely everything for. That had immediate impact on our club. Jack Martin in round one kicked 4 goals on his debut. I can't remember the last Carlton player that did that for us. Like, it's been so long since you were able to sit down and go, wow, we've got a player that's debuted and had immediate impact on the scoreboard, on the game. He was best on ground for us in game one. Where has this been? So you're right. And I think, to your point, it may not need to be those Papley or Wines types, but I think adding experience and adding a different dynamic to our list is definitely what's needed this offseason to take that next step. And look, with another year under the belt of someone like Paddy Dow, who's killing it in the reserve. I know it's reserves and it's only 14 players or whatever it is, but he's coming on in leaps and bounds in reserves games. You've got Lockie O'Brien that's not even getting a look in because of how competitive our list now is in that 22, whereas last year it was a walk-up start. So that progression is really good to see. It's just taking that next step. When's it going to come? We just don't know. We don't know. And that's how it's been our whole life as Carlton supporters, unfortunately. It's just going to continue until we have that breakout moment, like, all right, we're going to win. We're going to win this. Tonight should be a game that we go into going, we're going to win by 7 goals. They're coming off a 4-day break, but you can't, because it's Carlton. We could lose. We've seen it happen before.
We're just not there yet. No, I know what you mean.
No, not quite.
I know what you mean. Who are obviously there's so much young talent in the squad. Who are some of the guys who maybe don't have the limelight? So I'm sort of talking about get out of Walsh and Wiedering and those kind of guys. Who are some of these really new kids that you're seeing that people may not be talking about them as much, but you see something? Who is that player for you?
Yeah, I think, Setterfield, Matt Kennedy, they've had raps this year, so I won't go into that too much. Setterfield's come on in leaps and bounds. He's probably our most improved versus last year. Sorry, I'm just going to let the dog out.
No, you're
right. He's coming in leaps and bounds this year, Setterfield, as that inside mid that we've been waiting for. I think for me, one that hasn't been spoken about enough is Tom Williamson. He's been out of the game for 2 years. He's still relatively young, relatively inexperienced. But when Newman went down, unfortunately, and Willow stepped in, since then he hasn't missed a beat. His game against Freo was incredible, and it probably wasn't spoken about enough. He laid 2 or 3 tackles on Fife that changed the flow of the game, and helped nullify him with Plowman when Fife went forward. So I think Willow's right up there for me as someone that needs to continue what he's doing and continue his progression, because Simo's not going to be there forever. We don't know if Simo's going to go another year. If he doesn't, Willow needs to step up and fill that role straight away. And I think he's done a brilliant job this year. In terms of who hasn't been playing in the senior side this year, for me, Liam Stocker's the one. There's just something about him. I know we saw a little bit of him last year. He was playing off half-back. I don't think that's where he's most suited. His kicking is unbelievable and absolutely pinpoint. But myself and one of my mates who's also a Carlton supporter, we speak about how he could play that out of the goal square, lead up forward role like a De Goey. He's got the body, he's got the pace, he's got the burst, he's strong. He just needs that ability to be able to build that further and get himself the experience in that area of the ground to be a potential game breaker for us. Because at the moment, Charlie Curno's the one for us. We saw against the Dogs last year. Unfortunately, he's injured. Without him there, we don't really have that explosive, I can kick you 6 goals today sort of player. It's evenly spread, which is brilliant. It's great. But you need that X factor type. I think Stocker's the one. I think he could be the one, but it's too early to say. I want to see some more footy into the kid.
No, I like it. I like that a lot. I like the sentiment, and I agree with you about him. I didn't really think about him as a forward option. I've got a really good friend of mine, Lippy, who's in Tel Aviv, and he's adamant that Stocker will be our next captain. He's that hot on him. You just think he oozes something, and even in those early games that he played, he just shows that. Similar to Williamson, he's got that aggression, that pride.
Wants to take the game on.
Yeah. He wants to push people around. So yeah, I like that a lot. Let's. I've got 2 more questions for you. So, the talk about off season and what we need and all of that. You're the list manager. What is priority number 1? What is it? Who is it?
It's a tough one. Like it has to be Papley. We were so close last year. I mean, actually, I'll stay away from Papley because there's too much talk about him. The guy that I think we should be going after, and he's completely gettable, is Zach Williams from GWS. I think we need someone of his class, someone that's got that outside pace and can just break a game open from the back half, is something that will really complement Doc. Like, Doc tries to do that for us as much as he tries. He can't do it on his own. If you've got that second player that can complement, Zach Williams is the bloke that you need to throw everything at. And from memory, I think is he a restricted free agent potentially?
I believe he is. I could be wrong.
I think he is. And if that's the case, throw everything at him. Give him. Jason Johannesson's on 800K a year. If he's on 800K a year, Zach Williams is surely worth that. I know he's been a bit injury prone over the years, but manage him. We've got Andrew Russell there as head of performance. He's done a brilliant job since he's come in with the likes of Harry Mackay, getting him relatively fit compared to what he was. So bring him in. Throw 800K at him. Like, let's just get that player that can break a game open. And he comes at no cost. Absolutely no cost other than salary. So for me, that'd be number 1. Absolutely.
Love it. Final question. It's the last question I ask everybody as we're on this journey. We'll look back on this video because we've got a nice little memory now, you and I. So what year is it going to be? When do we lift up the cup?
I hate thinking about it because I hate getting my hopes up. Oh, mate. If everything goes right this off-season, if we finish the season off strongly, look, finals should be next year. You'd hope it would be next year at a minimum. If we can make an impact in finals next year, you'll have guys like Paddy Dow, Samo, all in that 25 age bracket. Wiedering will be at his prime. Cripple will be at his prime. 2022 is not out of the question, but it's as optimistic as it gets as a Carlton supporter. Like, I know I spoke about patience before, but there's only so much. Like 2022, I'm going to be 28 years old. I want to see a flag before I'm 30. So let's try. Can we please get on a roll? Please. So 2022, 23 at the latest. That's it. That's final for me.
No, I love it. I feel you so much. It's kind of like, come on. When are you going to see it? Like, come on. Like, all I've heard about is the mighty Carlton Football Club. Like, when is it my turn?
Killer, absolute killer. So who knows? If it gets to 2025, that's 30 years between flags, and we're starting to look like Richmond. So you don't want that. You definitely don't want that.
Yeah. Well, mate, I've thoroughly enjoyed the chat. I really appreciate you coming on and giving you your time and obviously joining in. And I love reading your pieces. It's something the channel has been lacking for a while, and it's a testament to you and your hard work, and you're self-motivated. You push what you want to do, and I can't wait to keep working with you over the years, mate. So thank you once again, and I'll see you around.
Before I go, my missus will kill me if I don't do this.
Okay.
I've just got to introduce the newest blue bagger to the mix. This is Jasper. He's watched every game since he was picked up since round 8, and hopefully he's a bit of a bit of a positive sort of token for us. So there
Have
he
a
is. That's
look
your
at
newest
the
player.
Guernsey. That has
That's
made my
your
day.
newest blue bagger. That's it. That's it. Good boy. Good boy. No, Terry, thank you, mate. Appreciate the discussion. It's been great working with you. It's gonna be great great to continue that moving forward. So appreciate it, guys. For everyone on the channel, if you've got if you want to reach out to me, give me any commentary on the analysis and give me your thoughts. Feel free. It's it's something I want to keep building on and keep providing value with this content. So thank you very much for the support, guys.
Awesome, mate. Go Blues.
Terry, go Blues, mate.